Hey guys, what's going on? Jake here, and welcome back to another episode of the F124 driver career for round 7 out of our 16 round season in Austria, which is and has historically been my best track on this game or on F1 games. So we have a chance of a win here, and we could have amazing pace. Still staying on 101 AI because that is where I belong. We're not going to lower it just because I'm at a good track for myself. And yeah, let's see what we can do now as into practice we go. Last time out, I think was... Oh, honestly, I can't even remember. I think it was Spain. I think Spain was the last race that we had. And that went quite well. So let's see what we can do here in Austria. Yes, I did just have to go and check, and yes, it was Spain, but it was a very good race for us. We battled all race with Lance Stroll and ended up getting ourselves a point, which was very hard fought at a track that I'm not normally very good at. So hopefully coming to a track where I am really good, we can have the pace to potentially maybe get a win or a podium at least. But Max Verstappen so far has won every single race this season and has only been robbed of taken of the fastest lap 3 times, once by Lando Norris and twice by me at both Imola and Canada. So yeah, he's only 3 points off having the maximum possible in an F1 season so far. But into Sprint Quali 1, because this is a sprint weekend, it is going to start off in the Inter conditions. So we're going to set a lap to set the pace on the Inters before it then dries up. And maybe there's a chance of us getting onto some dry tyres by the end of this session. As always, we do run a full quali format because I think it's more fun. So we will have Q1, Q2 and Q3 as well as Sprint Quali 1, 2 and 3. Which means that the only dry tyres available to us are the mediums. But first of all, we're on Inters, so let's see what we can do. My pace around this track is normally quite good, and something that I found was especially that the last sector, I could carry a lot more speed for the final corner. Obviously, I don't run strict corner cutting, so I do take a little bit off, but it gives me the extra pace compared to the AI. Currently 1.5 seconds up after 1.5 sectors on the mediums. A little bit of a slide there, but this could be a very good lap, as here we come now through the middle sector. We just need to carry the car around. We just need to keep it close to the curb and just let it roll around that corner as we apply power. And same again for this corner, two of my favourite corners on any Grand Prix. Maybe run a little bit wide there. So there probably is a little bit of time in that specific corner. But here we are, we get a good run. Coming towards the final sector. We take that nicely, almost have a spin as we get on the curb. But then we aren't even able to carry the speed through the final corner. So there is probably a couple, maybe 3 attempts in this lap. But it's still enough for us to go quickest in the session because we were the last car around the track, so we did have the driest conditions. But there were potentially a lot more time in that lap, so maybe that's a little omen of what's to come potentially for this race weekend. Into Sprint Quali 2, again on mediums. The checker flag has come out for the session. I have no idea where we are because we have only done this 1 lap for the session. But through the last corner, we were able to carry a lot more speed than we were in the Q1. So let's see where we end up. But I think it was a bit of a scruffy lap. And in the end, we only end up P8, which is unfortunate. But Sprint Quali 2, P8, only 4 attempts off pole. Verstappen, again, fastest. Of course he is. Without Verstappen, this is actually quite an interesting season. But here we come now in Sprint Quali 3 on the softs for our final lap of sprint qualifying. So, up into turn 1 we go. With no strict corner cutting limits. You do need to cut that a little bit, but we don't. We take it perfectly without any corner cuts. And we get a perfect exit. Coming up now into turn 2, technically turn 3, the hairpin, the most difficult corner with no traction control. You need to take it nicely, let the car roll through. I mean, there we probably could have turned it a little bit more, but I didn't want to risk a spin, so we had to do 2 corrections. And we're draining ERS on the 2 big straights because obviously we are slower on the straights than the AI. We run higher wings every single circuit. But we do dip a tyre into the grass there, which might cost us maybe half a tenth or so. But here we come now through to the middle sector, which is normally one of my strongest sectors along with the final. It's mainly the first sector where the straight line speed we lack that we don't do well. But we take that quite nicely, hugging that inside. We have another little step out there. So I'd say maybe so far potentially a tenth in this lap, but let's see how we take the final sector. Chuck it in on the right, really good. And we chuck it in again, a lovely, lovely little exit. This could be a very good lap time. It's going to be a 1:49, which ends up getting us P2 in the session. Only 2 thousandths off Max Verstappen, and those 2 thousandths could have been found in any of the 3 corners that I mentioned, either the hairpin or the corner after that second straight, or the exit of that left-hander after of the second long left-hander. But for the sprint, it is apparently going to be wet, as well as for the race as well. But let's see what we can do with Hulkenberg starting P17, myself starting up there really high in P2. Let's see if there's going to be anything interesting. We are going to have to start on the wet tyres, but it is going to start drying as the race goes on. So maybe there's a potential chance of a switch to intermediates if it becomes dry enough, which could be a decent little opportunity for us. But we are very bad in the wet conditions, so I'm not looking forward to this. 5 red lights for the Austrian sprint, and it is lights out, and away we go. And considering we're on tyres where I normally have absolutely no pace, that is a very good start. Verstappen defends fresh air. We're going to go round the outside of Max Verstappen, take the lead momentarily of the Austrian sprint, but Verstappen is way better than me. Gets a way better exit with that traction, and it's just something that we can't cope with, this traction on this game. Are we going to launch back up the inside of Max Verstappen? No, we decide not to risk it. We decide to sit comfortably in P2 for now, and we are just going to let Verstappen waltz off. If we can help it, we won't, but now we have Norris attacking as Verstappen in that one lap built a 3-second gap. That's how little pace I've got on these wet tyres, as now Norris comes past us. Leclerc comes past us, not Sainz, but we're going to send it back down the inside on Leclerc. We can't let too many positions get away from us. It ends up being quite a nice move as we squeeze Leclerc out on the exit, but it is just quite nice. I'm struggling to talk this morning. It is just a quite nice move. And now we have Russell coming around our outside instead of the Ferraris. We're going to just defend Russell on the inside, try and get a good exit, which is hard to say on these wet tyres, but we just about managed to get a decent exit. We can now use ERS just to stay up his inside. We're going to have to launch it down the inside to keep this position here on George Russell, and we do. Sending it up the inside, maybe going a little bit wide, don't quite hit the apex, but we squeeze Russell out, which allows Charles Leclerc to get through. But that's going to be enough for now, as now we have a very poor exit. Well, we were having very poor exits out of that corner throughout the whole race, and that allows the cars to have a look up the inside into the final sector, which wasn't even a strong sector for me in the wet. Verstappen just set a 14.9, I can only set a 16.4. That's how much slower I am. I'm like a second and a half a lap slower minimum than Max Verstappen. And I'm holding everyone up, obviously. Norris is now 8 seconds up the road. Russell, we just about managed to force him into a bad exit, but then we get a bad exit of our own, and it allows both Carlos Sainz and George Russell to come through, which means that we are now in trouble here of losing our podium place in the sprint, and there's nothing we can do. We can't do a switchback. We don't have enough grip for it. The only thing we can do to make overtakes in this sprint race is send it, and that's what we're about to do on Carlos Sainz. So we send it down the inside, and we accidentally have a little look at Russell. We don't really want to get him. I don't think we can yet, but he's going to get a better exit than us anyway. We're going to try to deploy the ERS to potentially have a little look down into turn 3/4. If you ever consider that small left-hander, we have a little look, but it's not going to happen on George. And if anything, we just brake late to defend. On lap 11 or 12, Russell has waltzed up the road by 11 seconds. Here comes Charles Leclerc. We're going to have to send it back down the inside if we want to keep this position. We can't though. Leclerc brakes too late for us. There's nothing we can do about that. We need to try and potentially get a good exit if possible, or that is going to be P4 gone in the sprint, and that is what it ends up being, is Nico Hulkenberg retires with a mechanical failure, which isn't a good omen for us. Apparently I don't have fault frequencies on, but we're going to sort that out later, guys. Don't you worry. But we get a bad exit now on the final lap. We've got Oscar Piastri right behind us. He is very, very close to us, as is Carlos Sainz. Leclerc's got away. We won't be able to get him back. Verstappen setting another fastest lap of this race. Honestly, I just don't really have pace. Norris sets a 13.7. Let's see what I can do, as now we have Piastri trying to come around our outside on the final lap of the Grand Prix. We're not going to let him do it. We're going to keep the inside. So Norris's best lap of that race was a 13.7. We're coming up the line here, sliding around the last corner with no grip to set a 15.7, which is 2 seconds slower, which is just mental. But I'm very happy with the P5, considering we started P2 on one of my strongest tracks. It's not a great result, but the fact that it was wet, obviously, was the game changer, and you know, we're going to have to try to do better, hopefully, in the race when it's hopefully only into conditions and not wet, because we are much better in into conditions than wets, just because of the grip difference. But we gained stats with a little bit of pace in that race. Obviously, losing position from your grid slot will lose you pace, but yeah, we were just a bit slow in the wet. We do deserve to lose a bit of pace there, to be completely honest with you. So into qualifying we go. We're just going out on a set of mediums, reason being because it was obviously a sprint weekend and we used quite a few, well, we didn't really use quite a few softs. I just wanted to see what we could do on mediums, because over one lap the mediums felt like a really grippy tyre, which is something I wanted to test. So in sprint quali 3 we set a 104.9 on a set of soft tyres, which was a good lap, and this has currently been quite a good lap on the mediums, which is something I wasn't expecting. But here we come, we're currently miles up on Logan Sargent, as you might have seen through the middle sector. I don't know if it would have come up, but here we are taking the final corner with a lot of speed coming through that final corner. That'll be a lot of time difference. We're going to set a 153, which is only 4/10 slower than my lap on the softs, and we actually get second in that session on a set of mediums, a 10.5 off max, which is just insane. But then we made a mistake. It was into conditions in Q2. There was meant to be a little dot of rain. That little dot of rain turned into a massive storm out of my awareness, or out of my wares. If we'd gone out at the start of the session, it would have been almost dry conditions. We would have been able to go out on inters. But we come out towards the end of the session when it's wet, not having a correct weather forecast, and it means we're going to start P15 for the Grand Prix. But you know me, I love a good last to first challenge. As you can see on that rain, oh my god, I can't speak today. It's going to start off in into conditions and then switch over. So we're going to start inters and then probably switch on to hards. So, and with grid penalties applied, we're going to actually start P13. Nico obviously had to take new components outside of Parc Fermé because of his retirement in the sprint, so therefore he starts from the back. So, and purple grid slot, starting a bit more to the left to maybe have a look around the outside. 5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix. He's going to start off inters, get to the dries, and his lights out, and away we go. A bit of a long hold there, but we don't get a good start. It's a very poor start. If we'd have had the start we had on wets, we'd be doing all right. We actually slide into another car. Unfortunately, no damage, but we almost run into the back of Alex Albon now, and we take our turn on the inside. We just run onto the curb, and we almost spin, and that means we lose 1-2 positions, maybe even more actually, that I didn't even notice. But we're down into P15. We've lost positions off the start, so we're going to send it down the inside and get ourselves up down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo into P12. The most opportune overtaking spot on the first lap is that corner, and we make it happen, overtaking 3 cars, getting ourselves up into P12. Ricciardo will come back at us, but he won't be able to complete the move as we squeeze him out on the outside. Now, towards the end of lap 1, these cars are slow. We've got Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon currently gatekeeping the points from us, but we do make a mistake in that final corner. It's not going to keep us close enough. Hopefully Ricciardo won't be able to have a go, but we are going to switch it to hot lap, see if we can keep a little bit of speed on that straight. But we have a chance if we can get a good exit out the first corner, and we did until we got caught up on the curb. But are we going to be close enough to Yuki Tsunoda? Daniel Ricciardo certainly feels as if he could get a move done. But let's see if they're going to be slow enough into this corner. We're going to send it down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. We're not going to go for Alex Albon just yet. In hindsight, he was so slow that we probably could have, but we aren't. We're going to squeeze out Yuki Tsunoda, and that is going to be us into P11, only 1 point at 1 place outside of the points. And we are getting closer and closer to Alex Albon here through the last sector, my strongest sector of the Grand Prix. If we can carry enough speed, we gain so much time there, and we get a good exit as well. Let's see what we can do now coming on to the big main straight after turn 1 up to turn 2/3. Let's see if we can make that move into the hairpin. Can we get a good exit? Just about, but we get caught up on the curb a little bit, going to ruin a little bit of momentum, but we're still definitely close enough to Albon. ERS is deployed, no DRS because it is too wet, and we're going to send it down the inside of Albon, and we do. A little bit of a dive bomb there, sending it down the inside of Alex Albon. He still remains on our outside, but he doesn't have enough grip round the outside to stop us completing the move, and we are now up into the points and P10, and by the time we get to lap 7, the tyres are going off completely now as cars start to pit. It is dry enough for us to pit. We were having problems in the race of our rear tyres being too hot, and that meant that the rear tyres were wearing at an extraordinary rate. So by the time we get round to the end of lap 8 onto lap 9, we are actually now going to pit on to a set of hard compound tyres. But that so-called undercut, we were only 2-3 seconds behind Stroll before everyone pit. As you can see, struggling on the pit entry. We were only about 3 seconds behind Stroll before he pit, and I think in the end we're going to come out about 5 seconds, maybe 6 behind him, which is not ideal. But we are now on the dries, which means we have the most opportune scenario for us to now gain a lot of time and show how fast we actually are around this circuit, because we haven't had a lot of wet weather on this track or on this game, so it'll be something that maybe comes in time. But here we are, coming round the final corner. We've already managed to gain on Lewis Hamilton. He was about 3 seconds ahead of us. We've gained on him by quite a bit, already, setting a 1:11.0 purple final sector, and we just about managed to squeeze the DRS from Lewis Hamilton, and we are now going to have the chance to maybe even move up to P9, but we didn't lose many positions with that undercut. We only just came out ahead of Piastri and Ocon, so we're just going to try and make sure that Piastri cannot get too close to us because he will blast past us in that McLaren. But we are now really close to Lewis Hamilton. Once again, one lap later, we might have a chance of making a move here. Maybe not into turn 1, but into turn 3. He set the fastest lap of the race so far, which is absolutely fantastic. 2 purple sectors, and we managed to get past Hamilton on that lap. I don't know why I didn't show it, but we are now right behind Lance Stroll, about to set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. 3 purple sectors, 1:08.4, and on to the next lap now. We have sat behind Stroll enough to save up some ERS, and here we come on Lance Stroll, looking to make the move to get us into P8 and potentially then chase after Fernando Alonso, who I believe we will catch. Here we go on Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's going to keep it on the inside. We're not going to go for the switchback. We're going to hang it around the outside on Stroll, and it is a textbook move. We now have the DRS, and we've got ERS to just pull away from Lance on the straight and get ourselves P8 secured. And then we set another fastest lap, merely 1 or 2 laps. I think that was 1 lap later. We set the fastest lap on that lap, even though we made an overtake. That just shows how fast we are. And now here we are again, coming out of that final corner. We managed to drop Stroll from DRS in that one sector alone, but there is a retirement up ahead. We are now trying to catch Alonso and dropping Stroll, and let's see who this is. It looks like it's the Mercedes of George Russell, which means you're going to actually gain a position from a retirement in a Grand Prix, putting us up into P7. As you can see now, Verstappen set to 1:07.5. We are now equally in the same distance between Alonso and Hamilton, meaning that we are now gaining on Fernando Alonso for P6 instead of P7. A little bit wide in that final corner, but we still managed to set a lap time only merely a tenth slower than Verstappen, who is currently miles clear of the rest of the grid because they're fighting, and that allowed us with that incredible lap to get into the DRS of Fernando Alonso. Let's see if we can now make a move in the upcoming laps. 1 lap later, we are now setting 1:07.4 as a fastest lap of the Grand Prix by a mile, well, by a tenth. But here we are now, Fernando Alonso, later on in that lap, after setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, we have got Alonso within our crosshairs. Here we go, we just need a good exit through this corner, which we were surprisingly really good on in the race, and look at that, a 10th gain through that corner. It allows us to get a good exit and get close before my favourite sector compared to the AI, as we are now going to chuck it into this right-hander, gain a load of time, chuck it into this right-hander even more so, and almost hit the back of Alonso because we had so much momentum. But here we come on Fernando Alonso. We're going to make Fernando defend the inside. Reason? Because we can just hang it round the outside, brake later with our setup, glide it round the outside and compromise Alonso's line so he cannot re-overtake us, and makes it easier for us to potentially drop him, which we have already done and dropped him out of DRS. By the time we get to lap 29, the tyre wear, he's very equal, and we are still trying to catch Carlos Sainz. But as you can see, there's a gaggle ahead of cars from P2 of Perez, Norris, Sainz and Leclerc all fighting really hard. Sainz has already pulled up to that group of cars, and now that they're fighting so hard, going 3 wide into corners, 2 wide into corners, we might have a chance now of catching. We've dropped Alonso by 2.5 seconds. Let's see what we can do on lap 31 or 36. Look at them fight, and we are here. We are now with this gaggle of cars. P2 is on the cards in today's race, ladies and gentlemen. On to lap 32. Here we go. There is a chance here of a move. Leclerc, Sainz, Perez and Norris battling so hard that they've allowed me, the fastest car on track, to catch up to them by probably a 10-second gap I was behind. And now I'm here and I'm ready to fight, chaps. I'm ready to fight. And we accidentally send it down the inside of Leclerc. I didn't want to make that move on Leclerc, so we're just going to kind of let him by. He didn't really expect it, not really a fair move. But I was just trying to brake late to get a good exit, and in the end, no damage for either car, so in the end it's not too bad. But on to lap 32, we are now going to do the same thing we did to Alonso to Leclerc by making him defend the inside, hanging it around the outside and making Leclerc lose a bunch of time whilst we managed to keep with the cars ahead, which is lovely. We managed to do that just fine. Lap 33 of 36, on to lap 35 of 36 now, and we are just behind the gearbox of Carlos Sainz. Are we going to make it happen 3 times? No, not quite. We're going to wait to make this move up towards the hairpin for P4, but we need to get a wriggle on. We've only got 2 laps of the Grand Prix remaining, including this one. So here we go. Carlos Sainz just decides, hey, I'm going to defend fresh air, so we're just going to hang it round the outside. Can we potentially get an exit good enough to challenge Leclerc and Norris, Perez and Norris, sorry. No, we can't. We get a poor exit in the end, so we're going to have to defend this move that we just made on Carlos Sainz. He managed to pull back ahead with his superior straight line speed. Perez and Norris still battling. We're going to hang it around the outside. Maybe have a little look if Norris or Perez get out of shape, but neither of them do. On to lap 36. We aren't close enough to these guys. We had more pace. We had opportunities. That battling with Sainz maybe means that we aren't going to get a podium, let alone P2, as it looks like Perez, our championship rival apparently, according to the game, is going to get P2. There's not an opportunity now unless they rapidly run out of ERS up to the line. Here we go, through the final sector. It looks like it's going to be P4, which starting P13 is immaculate, but considering the pace that we had today, we probably should have been P2. We were faster than Max Verstappen throughout this race, and in the end it's going to be P4, which is fantastic, but you can't help but feel as we get driver of the day, there was maybe a little bit more in the tank.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
And yes, Max Verstappen wins again. But again, I managed to take the fastest lap off him with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, which is only by a tenth as well, which means that now with that P4, we are now 8th in the Drivers' Championship. We are now merely 5 points behind Fernando Alonso. So maybe a championship rival, a realistic one, should I say. And now in the Constructors, we are now 9 points clear of Aston Martin, which is fantastic, which is where we want to be. So, yeah, overall, I would say that with the stat boost that we're getting now, it was a very, very good race, and I can't be too upset other than the qualifying. It was a bottle from me this weekend because I had potential to get pole or maybe the front row, and I had the pace to be up there, and I just bottled it. But now we're going to have frequencies on, well, fault frequency on. It's going to be low, but it's going to be high type, so we can mechanically retire. So it's going to be interesting to see if that affects this championship for us. But yeah, overall, a good race. Sprint race in the wet was horrible. The race itself was quite good and very, very fun. So thank you all for watching today, guys. Hope you are looking forward to next time out in Silverstone for my home Grand Prix, technically the British Grand Prix. I've never normally had good pace there, so let's see if this game is any different. See you all next time.